everybody? Adam here. It is currently the 3rd of June. So, quick update on everything. I had a pretty good set of workouts today, although I took a nap that turned into, it was about 3 p.m. to 8. So that turned into a huge, I had an early morning shift at work, and then that just turned into a huge nap. So I didn't get too much else done today. I did get a good bit of writing done this morning, but yeah, just ended up napping for the rest of the day. So did get some good solid workouts in though. I noticed one thing that's super interesting is that today I had an overhead press day in the rotation, and I was doing 150 for sets of 7. And then I was like, wait a second, the most I've ever overhead pressed, strict pressed, is 165, like, ever in my entire life. And here I am doing 150 for 7s like it's no big deal. So, the bulk is real. So that was a little exciting moment. But anyway, moving on, today will be viewer questions number 3. So, a few more viewer questions, just to finish everything out. That is probably the end of the current batch of questions. I will be, shooting out probably another, call for questions in another, few weeks. Probably make this a pretty regular thing. But until then, this will be, this will have to last you. So, David via email asks, he says, my question is about gains. Given average genetics and a 2-on, 1-off schedule, how quickly should I expect my main lifts to go up? How long should it take a man to get from beginner to an intermediate bench, for example? What are intermediate targets for the major lifts? Alright, so, step number 1 is to tell you that intermediate doesn't fucking mean anything. There are, you could search out, strength standards videos, or not videos, but blog posts or whatever on the internet, and people will give you some hella arbitrary number about how much weight you should be able to lift. And the problem is that everyone's body is different. People have things that they're good at and things that they suck at. I have a pretty sucky overhead press, and a pretty sucky squat, and a pretty decent deadlift and bench press. So, what looks like a good bench for me may not look like what a good bench for you looks like. It's, it all depends on, your weight class, it depends on, your size, it depends on, sort of your anatomical features, your, basically the, your physiology, like how your body is set up, your joints, your limb lengths, all that. So, I'm not going to say that, that you should aim for some arbitrary number, because you shouldn't. That's absurd. What you should be aiming to do is just be better than you were the day before and just keep improving, and, don't think about it too much. I mean, I used to keep a list of all the world records in powerlifting and all the weight classes, folded up in my pocket so that I could look at it and give myself motivation to go for that, those ridiculous numbers. And that's good, to have kind of something to aspire to occasionally, but it's also just kind of stupid to, that's something I hate about YouTube too, is that in general when people put themselves out there, they put, pictures of themselves lifting heavy weights online. They're lifting a super heavy weight, they're lifting way more than most people in the world can lift, they're lifting, something that's way better than what they've been doing because their training has been really good, and people still shit all over them because they'll be like, oh, there's this tiny little issue in your form, and also you can't bench press nearly as much as the world record. Oh, cool story, bro. Who gives a shit? And it's kind of the same thing in terms of, progress. There's actually some really good studies. If you go to Strength Theory and you search, Strength Theory genetics, there's a really good article that Greg has about what, the differences between people, and there was some really interesting things. They did a really big study where they had a shit ton of people lift weights and see what happened, and in fact some people actually, their strength and muscle actually went down from lifting weights. And then there were some, crazy people on the other end who, just got hella jacked from, no effort at all. And then the vast majority of people fell in the middle and, they were able to keep seeing, slow, steady results. So, you know, how quickly, how long should it take? I mean, I don't care. You know, all that matters is that it keeps moving. As long as you're seeing some kind of progress, ideally every month or every other month, then you're doing good. That's all that matters. You know, keeping it for the long haul. Like there are elite athletes. There's a really good if you read like Deadlift Dynamite by Andy Bolton. He's one of the best deadlifters in the world, and he talked about how he had to go through a whole year-long cycle just to put like 15 pounds onto his deadlift. You know, like that's the kind of that like, yeah, it'll be quick at first, and then you know like for a while you should hopefully aim to see you know just slow, steady progress. And then it's gonna, you know, if you really get to that point where you're like, you know, you're hitting your genetic limit, or you know, you're you know an elite athlete, then yeah, it's gonna take a lot more effort to get you know just a little bit more. But yeah, just aim to see slow, steady progress. I can't really give recommendations on how quickly you should expect to see things because again, everyone's gonna be different. All right, next question comes from Mo, also over email. Question is, my question about fitness, how do I get stronger when my physical limitations make it dang near impossible to lift? Will bodyweight exercises be enough to build muscle? I don't expect to get the definition I would from lifting, but I would like to be strong enough to deadlift for my spouse someday. So, here is the deal. Yes, awesome. Do bodyweight exercises, that's great. When it comes to working around injuries and physical limitations, all that we can really say is you have to find stuff to do that doesn't bother it or that you know doesn't make it worse. So if there's anything that causes pain or discomfort, you know, aside from the normal amount of soreness and discomfort you'd expect to see from lifting, you should avoid that. And that means you know you still want to find major movements that you can train for every major body part. But it doesn't have to be, you know, like for example, if you can't squat, that's great. You know, just do a leg press machine, or, you know, maybe you can do some lunges or something, you know. Find something else that involves the legs that you can do. And the question about bodyweight exercise, yeah, absolutely. Bodyweight exercises are amazing, you know. They're super handy. They're super convenient. You don't need any equipment. You can do them anywhere. And you know, again, that's that's amazing. Would adding weight in sometimes be better? Well, it depends, because you need to progress. That's the main thing. You need to be doing, you know, consistently aiming to do more than you were before. When it comes to lifting weights, there's a lot of variables that we can switch up on that to get the best possible response. So we can add a little bit of weight, we can add a few reps, we can do more sets, etc. When it comes to bodyweight exercises, we don't have the option as much to mess around with the weight, because if you're doing a bodyweight squat, and we've already said that you're not adding any weight to that, the only weight that you can do a bodyweight squat at is body weight. So at that point, all that you can modify is sets and reps. And what that means is, over time, you're just going to be consistently adding more and more work, and that can get really tiring. You know, like a really good example is, you know, like say I'm going to do one push-up today, and each day I'm going to add one push-up, and I'm just going to keep doing that forever. That's cool, except that after, you know, a year or two, I'm doing hundreds and hundreds of push-ups a day, and that sucks. And unfortunately, you know, at that point, there's not really much else I can do unless I start adding in weight. So yeah, bodyweight exercises are great. I just, I think that, you know, you should ideally be able to get some dumbbells or something that you can add in some weight later on, or, you know, you're just going to have to keep doing more reps. Or, you know, you could just stop at a certain point and maintain, you know, at a certain base level of physical fitness. That's fine too. You know, there's nothing that says that, you know, you have to keep getting better forever. Ideally, you're always doing, you know, the most that you can. But, you know, like, again, there's plenty of low-intensity programs that don't really have any progression that are good at just sort of maintaining a baseline level of physical fitness. And that's, you know, again, that's already amazing. That's already better than most people out there who don't exercise. So, all right. Next question is from Kevin over email. Kevin says, there's this idea that goes along with set point theory that if leptin levels were tanked due to long-term dieting, one can raise them again with short bouts of overeating. If we're cool with that idea, can we observe it in reverse? If one has very high leptin levels due to chronic overeating, could one then lower them through short bouts of fasting or undereating? TLDR, theoretically, if I occasionally undereat significantly, would I increase my appetite and decrease metabolism so I can eat more and gain more weight? So what you're there's a lot here. Theoretically, yes. That's probably possible. I couldn't really give you the science behind it. I don't, I can't really give you a really authoritative answer on this one. What I will say is that's basically kind of the premise behind intermittent fasting for losing weight. So that may not be the best technique for gaining weight. At the same time, what I think is that for people who are trying to gain weight, it's probably not as much. It's probably not worth it. It's possible that it happens. It's possible that you could do that. But I think that the amount of time that you spent not eating would probably be, more than, it wouldn't be enough, in like if I have 2 days to eat and I only eat one of those days versus if I'm eating both of those days, I'm definitely going to eat more calories if I'm eating 2 days. That's just a fact, simply because I can shovel more in, without throwing up. So, I think that if you could hold calories constant, which is to say that if you could if you could still get a calorie surplus, even with some amount of time fasting, that it could work. Absolutely. Do I think that it's likely to? No, because you just spent 1 day under eating or eating very little. And then you're playing catch up on the second day, and that's not ideal. In my experience, myself included, most of the people who have seriously bulked or try to gain weight, it's just about shoveling it in constantly more than anything else. And I think that doing a program like that may not be the best idea. I think it's theoretically possible. I'm just I'd be interested to see, what kind of results you get out of it. All right, last question for today. On Twitter, @buttwife. In response to a picture of me, says, "What shoulder stuff should I do? Because I do lateral dumbbell raises and military dumbbell presses and don't look as good." Answer is you're doing great already. You're already doing good. In my program currently, I'll kind of give you a run through of all the shoulder stuff I'm doing, and I'll say, I've probably got a lot more years of training. Not to assume, but I've been training for over 10 years now. So I hesitate to I hesitate to accept the idea that someone should judge themselves based on me. I don't like that. Judge. Follow your own progress. Set your own goals. Don't worry too much about what I look like. But at the same time, so my current program, for example, I am doing, I'm alternating bench and shoulder days for the first workout. So on shoulder days, I will do 7 sets of 7, and I'm starting off with military presses, and then as I get tired out, I switch over to push presses. And I will say, don't be afraid to use push presses. Military presses are, strict presses tend to be better for, building muscle, but if you're already tired out, cheating is good. I could show you actually, if you search like Brett Contreras cheating, the strength guys or something like that, you should be able to find the article. There's a really good article about how cheating is good in some situations, because if you're already tired out, it allows you to use more weight and do more reps than you otherwise would be able to. And in some cases, there's minimal risk for injury or issue as a result, so there's no reason not to do that. And the push press it's not really a cheating, it's a legitimate, respectable exercise. So what I typically do is I'll get through about 4 or 5 sets strict, maybe doing a couple non-strict reps towards the end, but then sets 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, whatever, I'm doing just regular push presses simply because I'm already too tired out to do strict presses. That allows you to get more work in. That helps. And then, aside from that, in the evening, the shoulder stuff in the evening is just paired with the arm stuff, and it's essentially lateral raises and finisher with like plate circles. I don't think plate circles are super important, so so basically, what it looks like is I'm doing a lot of the same stuff you are, but one thing to add in is that a lot of people, they train the middle head of the deltoid, they train the front head of the deltoid. The front head of the deltoid, you almost never have to worry about that because it gets worked out with the bench press, it gets worked out with the overhead press. You don't need to do front raises. It's almost never an issue. Lateral raises out to the side, that works out the middle head, as well as just regular overhead presses work out the middle head as well. But very few people actually work out the rear head of the deltoid, which is in the upper back. And typically, some rowing motions work it out a decent amount, but the action, the movement that works it out the most that people are not typically doing is some kind of reverse fly motion, which is basically the motion where you're expanding, and that is a super good one for kind of shoulder health because, again, it's a weak muscle a lot of people don't train, and a lot of powerlifters do band pull-aparts to work that out. You can also, again, do like reverse flies. You can do like some high pulls or some face pulls. Even trap work will target it a little bit. But that's another thing I suggest, just to kind of get, again, full size on those shoulders as well as injury prevention. And aside from that, just work hard, increase volume, and make sure you're getting good amount of calories in, and over time you'll build some muscle. That's really about all I can say. There's no magic bullet. It's just a matter of do the work, and hope you've got good genetics for shoulders. I mean, if you search like Big Ramy, who's like one of the Olympia competitors, he's got freaking ridiculous shoulders, like ridiculous shoulders. And I mean, all guys at that level have ridiculous shoulders. But, again, when it comes down to specific aesthetic looks of specific muscles, oftentimes that's very much a conditioned genetic thing simply because of the way your body is set up. So you shouldn't compare yourself to other. You should try and aspire to, what others do, but you shouldn't specifically try and say, like, I want exactly that. Because by the time, you build up your shoulders, they may not look the same as the next guy or me. So, that's all the questions for now. As always, don't hesitate to send me more questions. Once I have a few questions, I'll, always, be ready to put out another video. And again, probably in a few weeks, another month or so, I will just, send out another call for questions, do some more viewer question videos. Until then, guys, as always, like, comment, share, and I will see you later.